She and the lion them good.
Tonight, an urgent public health warning. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is advising Jamaicans not to consume certain packaged sugar products after metallic contamination was detected. What you need to look for and what you should do at the top of the program. Then, a post-Carnival shooting now before the gun court. Questions about bail, public safety, and how much can be said and what must not be said as the legal process unfolds. And a national debate over policing and accountability. If Jamaica has body-worn cameras, why are we being told they may not be used in the very moments they matter most? Plus, a community in Hellshire says it asked for help and was ignored. Now, after lives have been lost, they are asking who is responsible. Then later we step back and connect the week. All of that today, inside Lead Story. I'm Jodie Ann Quarry, and let's begin the program. We begin tonight's edition of Lead Story with an urgent public health advisory. The Ministry of Health and Wellness is warning members of the public not to consume certain packaged sugar produced by Pan-Caribbean Sugar Company after preliminary testing identified the presence of metallic fragments. The ministry is advising that these products pose a potential risk of injury if consumed. The affected product is labeled Pan-Caribbean Sugar and is sold in 1 pound, 2 pound and 4 pound packages. Let's take a quick look at a report done yesterday by CVM reporter Curlin Brown.
At a time when pranks seem to be the order of the day on some platforms where information is shared, this is no joke. In fact, the Ministry of Health and Wellness says this is on high alert. The public is advised not to consume packaged sugar produced by Pan-Caribbean Sugar Company Limited. Here's why. Preliminary laboratory test has identified metal fragments in samples of that brand of sugar purchased at retail outlets, a matter brought to light by a customer on social media. And the conclusion now is this may pose a significant health risk if ingested. Our newsroom immediately combed surrounding establishments in close proximity to Broadcast House with a press release in hand minutes after it got to our newsroom. Our second stop was Boot Gas Station on Constant Spring Road. So we did a quick check and we found one of the packages here. So we're now going to inform them of the advisory sent out by the ministry. We were directed to the top brass management, Mrs. Booth, who was not only quite receptive based on the proof, but she acted promptly.
The Pan-Caribbean sugar, you're going to pull them off the shelf.
The stop order was immediate and applicable to the production, distribution and sale of the sweetener. The ministry said other official updates would be made available once lab results confirmed any food safety risks have been resolved and the product is again safe for consumption.
Thanks, Curlin. That then tells us what's going on. The batch codes identified in the recall are 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 8 and 0, 1, 2, 0, 2, 9. These are the only batch codes that have been in circulation since January of this year. The ministry is asking every Jamaican to do 3 things. Immediately. 1, don't consume this product. 2, safely discard any pan-Caribbean sugar in your home, especially if it has those batch codes. And 3, if you prefer, return the product to the point of purchase. The ministry says it will provide further updates once laboratory investigations confirm that the food safety risk has been resolved. You're urged to check the packaging carefully and identify affected batches. Safely dispose or keep yourself safe. Now, pay attention to what the ministry says are its official channels for more information. That's a developing public health issue, and we'll continue to track it here inside Lead Story. All right. We now turn to a major story coming out of Carnival 2026. Because this morning, the gun court granted bail to both accused in the Big Wall shooting matter. The incident took place on April 12th at the Big Wall Revolution after party held at the Ranny Williams Entertainment Centre in St. Andrew, an event tied to Carnival in Jamaica 2026. J.D. Richards, known publicly as J. Frey, faces charges of shooting with intent, wounding with intent, possession of a prohibited weapon, unauthorized possession of ammunition, and using a weapon to commit a felony. Javel Morrison, known as Javi Ambassador, faces charges of wounding with intent, using a firearm to commit a felony, and assault occasioning actual bodily harm. Both men were granted bail of $1.5 million each by Justice Natalie Hart-Hines. Conditions include the surrender of travel documents, reporting to police 3 times weekly, a curfew running from 6 in the morning to 9 at night, and a direct court order. Neither managed to discuss this case on any podcast or media platform. Both, we are being told, are to return to court later this year. Attorney at law Isaac Buchanan represents J.D. Richards, and he joins us now. Thanks so much for joining us, Isaac Buchanan.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Greetings to your viewers.
Thanks for joining us. We just want to be very clear at the outset of this that because this matter is before the courts, our discussion tonight won't touch on any of the facts of the case or any evidence or any question of guilt or innocence, especially because it's before the gun court. We're talking to you about law and the process here tonight.
Excellent. So I don't have to breach the sub judice rule. You just
saved me
a trip somewhere I don't like to go. Thank you.
There you go. So sub judice is because it's before the court, and so attorneys would know that this is not something that we can discuss in detail. We did reach out as well to the attorney representing Javel Morrison, King's Counsel Peter Champagny, who said because it was before the gun court, he was going to be cautious about having conversations about that at this time. Making sure, though, that you are able to join us, Isaac Buchanan, is important. This matter is now before the gun court. For Jamaicans, all court is same court, but the gun court is specific and different. Help us better understand at a general level what principles a court applies, the gun court, and this decision now to grant bail today, what it had to consider.
All right, so the first thing I'll say is gun court is in fact a specialized court. It's an in-camera court, which means it's not necessarily open to the public, as well as you will find with all of this public attention, there will be no jury in this matter. It's a judge alone trial by the nature and structure of the court. The court considered bail today, and I'm sure I can say that both parties was very appreciative that the court was able to entertain bail at first instance, and the bail was granted in circumstances where antagonistic defenses were raised, and the prosecution would have laid out facts, and the judges fixed her mind to it and granted bail in the manner that you had stated.
We are looking at initial reporting being that J.D. Richards, Jay Frey, you represent, should have gone to court on Wednesday, and Javel Morrison, Javi ambassador, was to have gone to court next Thursday, April 30. Those dates, though, have changed. Is that something that you can share with us as to why those dates have changed and they're both now on the same day?
You know, I'm not going to speak for the JCF, but I will say this. The media, the media and the media in Jamaica and social media at large is just pressuring people. Allow the JCF to do their work and collate the file and put the file together and bring it to the court. So I'm sure those dates were tentative, but the official date when the file was brought to the gun court registry and the date set immediately, keeping with the efficiency of the court, it was just playing it safe, I would say. But just happy to say that the matter was ventilated today in relation to bail, and the next court date is July 8th.
We have a high-profile case here before us. How does the court balance presumption of innocence against what had been raised, which were public safety concerns that this case generated significant public attention around?
I'm happy that you said that, because the court struck the balance in terms of public interest by making a particular, I would call social media, internet order in relation to the gentlemen who are a part of this case, my client and the other...
Javel Morrison.
Javel
yes.
Morrison, thank you. And as such, they are not to discuss the case on social media, directly or indirectly. I could make conversations about the implications of, orders which would lead to contempt in that matter, but I trust the mature thought that was put into making this guidance, and that the judge, I feel, would have given in contemplation to ensure that, in keeping with the Bail Act, she did all that was necessary. Her ladyship would have made contemplation to ensure that in granting bail, that the men were compliant, and that the bail actually addresses the presumption of innocence. Look at what's before the court, and I'll take this opportunity to say that the duty in this case is on the prosecution to prove the facts as they are beyond a reasonable doubt. And so the judge, in her contemplation and consideration, would have done all that was necessary. You
indicated today that your client was granted bail. We have information as well that the bail was set for 1.5 million Jamaican dollars. Is your client yet released as a result of having been granted bail this morning?
But yes. The last time I checked, he would have been released. So I'm sure he's in traffic, wondering how traffic has gotten so bad since the last time he was on the road, and he's fixing his mind to the traffic problem in Jamaica and the fact that the JCF officers are not wearing body cams, and he's back into the real world with the contemplations of the pressures of life.
The pressures of life, the vicissitudes of life, but something that your client will now be looking at. When is the return date for court now coming out of this morning's hearing?
The return date absolutely is July 8th, and we are looking forward to this case being dealt with the type of swiftness that is currently taking place, and it is showing improvement in the justice system.
Thank you, Isaac Buchanan, attorney at law and counsel for J.D. Richards, known as Jay Frey, in this matter. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, we should note as well that we told you we reached out to attorney at law Peter Champagny, King's counsel, who represents Javel Morrison, the other man charged in this case, for comment. He indicated that because this matter is before the gun court, or because this matter was before the gun court, there are restrictions on commenting publicly on the details of this case. We'll take a break and come back to you because that discussion about body cameras and the police, well, we're having it with the National Integrity Action next.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is...
Hi, I am Kendi Pangat.
Watagwan.
Watagwan.
Datagwan.
Watagwan.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
Datagwan for Watagwan.
Brought to you by
Some things are perfect from the start. Smell of.
We turn now to a developing policy debate, one that goes to the heart of policing and public trust. The Minister of National Security has suggested that body-worn cameras may not be used in active fire situations. That position has drawn concern from the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, and from civil society. If cameras are not used when force is being applied, then when are they to be used? We're joined this evening by Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of National Integrity Action. Good evening, Dr. Myers, and welcome to Lead Story. We're making sure that we can properly have Dr. Myers on with us. In the meantime, though, Minister Horace Chang described the call for police to wear body-worn cameras on armed operations, in his own characterization, a crazy idea. Now, we want to hear from National Integrity Action on this and some of the concerns that have been raised by civil society groups, because the statement that had been made by Dr. Horace Chang in the post-cabinet press briefing coming out of him speaking on Tuesday at the sectoral debate of Parliament now allows us to look at this long-standing discussion about body cameras, their acquisition and their use in Jamaica. Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of National Integrity Action, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too. Thanks so much for spending time. I am well. I hope you are as well. Now, you're having, though, a conversation that has not only had the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, get involved, but also civil society groups, with Minister Horace Chang, Minister of National Security and Peace, describing the call for police to wear body-worn cameras on armed operations as, in his own words and his own characterization, a crazy idea. What is National Integrity Action's assessment of that position by the minister?
We as civil society, and I'll just use civil society generally and National Integrity Action specifically, when we looked at it, we think that the minister's position is not supported by the facts in Jamaica nor globally, and we think the minister's, well, we hope he's out on his own in his speech, and that's why we're asking for the Prime Minister to speak, to add some clarity, or to make the voice of the cabinet and the government, the official position out, because we think that the government of Jamaica wants the best for all Jamaicans. And we know that the government of Jamaica works in the best interest of us all. So we understand that openness, transparency, and the use of devices that supports this is something that they all agree on. So we just think that maybe the minister was speaking contemporaneously, just, off on his own. So we are hoping that the minister and the Prime Minister would now speak on this and say, okay, this is what we're saying. And also point to the fact that their official position and with their work in terms of what the Prime Minister said and what the police commissioner said, that they're working towards ensuring that body-worn cameras are available for all situations, including when we have planned operations. And we cannot understand why this hesitance or reluctance to use body-worn cameras in planned operations, something that you have control over, is happening. We think it's really strange.
We've been watching, though, this discussion about body-worn cameras for years. A discussion that first started with the acquisition of the first batch of them, discussions around them being inappropriate for police uniforms here in Jamaica, reacquisition of body-worn cameras, discussions as to when they will be used, how many we have here, and now a statement from the minister saying that the deployment of body-worn cameras is the Commissioner of Police's decision, not his. As a matter of governance, though, is that acceptable for the minister responsible for national security and peace to disclaim authority over the use of technology and accountability technology in particular by the force he oversees?
You know, operational decisions are policing, right? We agree on that. However, but you understand that governance and for the policy side of things, the state and the government, the executive, has a role. And I am very certain that Minister Chang understands the difference between what we're calling for in terms of the policy directions and the support for policy directions and operational directions. I'm very certain that he understands that. And in any way, we hope he's not trying to muddy the water there, because there's a difference. And it's concerning this approach that he's trying to push. But we also are heartened by the fact that the Commissioner Blake himself has said that body-worn cameras is a part of what it is that the JSF has committed to doing. So we are heartened by that. We are very heartened by that.
You're heartened by that.
And we know that the support.
You're heartened by that, but this is within the context that not only has the minister's comment now received discussion or had discussion around it from civil society groups. A joint statement went out today, but the Independent Commission of Investigations came out as well, responding in their statement saying that the characterization of the use of body-worn cameras in operational settings as unreasonable or impractical, they said, is inconsistent with established international policing practices, saying that body-worn cameras are now standard in the United Kingdom, the United States, Canada, and Australia. Commissioner Blake, as you said a moment ago, has said in the past, as recent as January, that cameras would be used in planned operations. We know this as a general policing practice. The minister is now saying the opposite. How does that contradiction now affect public confidence in the oversight framework?
You know, the oversight framework has to do what it should do and what it must do, which is to come out strongly and say that this is what it is for oversight and for good governance and for justice. And I'll just use an example locally. Camosa Clark in Falmouth Police Station. Without the camera system in the jails, we would not have known what happened to Camosa Clark. And I'm just using that as an example to show that we can see the importance of having this line of sight. But we also understand that at 4 o'clock in the morning, usually the persons who are there to have a conversation is one, either dead, or the police who are looking for something there in the open. And the Indicom is rightly pointing out that we want to trust and verify. It is important that all parties are able to speak. And body-worn cameras offers one space, one place that we can have information clear, and that there is continuous chain of command control over it, and it just supports good policing. But even more from an operational point of view, the JSF uses these type of things as a way to have a debrief, have a conversation, to look at their practices, because it's important to look at this as a practice imperative, you know, because we don't want to hear an officer going on any form for operation and gets hurt. So the body-worn cameras offers this type of support for you to plan and for you to work through. I'll use the example. Dr. McKay, who is a criminologist and he works and he does operational work in the police force. He speaks about it from a point of view that he says that there is a red light on it. But it shows that he may not have known as much. So the type of information we're thinking and we know that needs to be there is that we can show that these operational things are there and it's supported.
And this is in the context now of the conversations that have been happening saying that wearing these body-worn cameras on operations might give away the officers with this red light, while others, including security consultant Mark Shields, former commissioner of police, saying they can be turned off and that these are used in so many planned operations around the world because they have this functionality, something that Jamaicans would have to be able to see. And we have on screen there a moment ago the body-worn camera and also not only the ability to turn on and off the camera, but also things in there as well that would allow for it to be used. So you're saying then that's not necessarily a justification for not using them. Let's use another... I'm
saying that it's not a justification, but even further, I'm saying that in terms of looking at ever country. I've worked in the UK space, and in the UK space for oversight, you also have general a civilian oversight that looks at how body-worn cameras, that looks at the images from body-worn cameras for situations that are happening, for you to have, for the citizens to get an understanding that this is what we did, this is how it happened, so that this building a trust and shared goals happens. So it's something that is a tool, a very good tool that is being used. It's not a panacea, but it's a very good tool.
A tool that
it's
allows
like
for us
that
to
want
see.
The big book.
Yes, a tool that allows Jamaicans to see as well the realities on the ground that the police are dealing with. But we also have information, Indicom now reporting that 105 persons have been shot and killed by security forces so far in 2026. Planned operations account for approximately 50% of the fatalities in 2025. That number in 2025 was 102, so we're a little higher than that, though. What does this data tell us about the urgency of this question then about body cameras and knowing what happens in these operations, especially the half that are planned?
The urgency of planned operations are something that the Jamaica Constabulary Force and their planners have control over. But even more than just having control over it, they are using this as a tool in ensuring that persons who are violent sometimes, or just ensuring that this can happen. So if you have the availability of body-worn camera and other information like this, it allows you to make your planning better, but it also allows you to make your execution better. And even more, we have shown that the body-worn cameras in a place of low trust, that has been happening, it builds this space that people can understand that, okay, there is evidence that it can be shared, both sides. And I'll use the example just in St. Anne, just 2 days ago. There was a whole community saying something happened that the police were saying the opposite of. And we'd like to know that these situations are not there so often, that the police can show that this is what we have, this is what we did. So this happening and offers this type of a balm, a salve for there. The other thing that is important in this, though, and we need to look at this, is that it builds the long-term trust. Our Jamaica Constabulary Force is the one we have. And security not only have police in it, also has citizen relationships. And if we have citizen relationship, we can build through policing and other ways to have a better, safer and secure community.
I think that is so important that you've highlighted that as well, that community relations aspect, that serving, protecting and reassuring former. The theme of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, still a hallmark of our policing today. Thank you for helping us then better understand why this body-worn camera issue is so important. Dr. Gavin Myers, Principal Director of National Integrity Action. Important conversation there as we watch police officers come under fire and citizens say that they have a different account. Up next, we'll talk about when a community asks for help. Hellshire Beach in St. Catherine says that they've been asking for assistance and they haven't received it, leading to the deaths of individuals along that beach. We'll talk about that when we return.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30. I'm me and the stylist, no scam and style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress, you charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
Hellshire Beach in St. Catherine has been under the portfolio of the Urban Development Corporation, the UDC, since 1968. The area falls within the Portland Bight Protected Area, a government-recognized protected zone spanning 160 square kilometers. The National Environment and Planning Agency has a master plan for the area that remains ongoing. The All Hellshire Leadership Council represents the communities within that area. Its chairman, Delphil Jalal, says that the council has repeatedly sought the UDC's assistance with basic safety infrastructure, especially fencing, at the hazardous waterfront locations. He says that assistance has not been provided. The council's position is that the failure to respond to those requests contributed to the drowning death of a young man in that area. So we have on Inside Lead Story with us the chairman of the All Hellshire Leadership Council, Delphil Jalal. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Jalal. Welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening and thank you for having me.
This is a heavy conversation, especially coming out of what took place yesterday. Yesterday we spoke with the president of the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, JABEM, last night. And he extended solidarity to your community, saying, listen, he understands the beach issues, he understands the safety and security issues that you and your community would have had, but he's also offering his assistance to help the council bring the relevant stakeholders to the table because he has heard your call. So help us better appreciate your call. When did your community first begin raising concerns about safety at Hellshire Beach?
It's been a number of years that we would have been raising this concern. It goes back to the UDC is responsible for the Hellshire area. And, their different facilities. They have the Two Sisters Cave and they have all the different properties that they manage. And the beach is also a part of the properties that, you have to access through their properties to get to the beach. So there are beaches that are, let us say, that are on the shoreline that are not regulated. They have no lifeguards, they have no facilities for recreational swimming. But they're also known to be a hazard. We have had, as you would have mentioned, a number of drownings. In fact, for this year, we would have had 5 drownings since the start of this year. And, some basic things with the assistance of the stakeholders, with the assistance of a UDC, for instance, and the other stakeholders, NEPA and others who are involved in beach management, and not to leave out, of course, our municipal council. There are some basic things that as community leaders we would love to sit down together at a table together to discuss what are the challenges that we are seeing as a community. We have, basic signage is one. Where it can be clearly erected, signs are clearly erected in those areas that tend to be a hazard, for persons to understand that this is a no swimming zone. In fact, even for our visitors that are coming into the area to enjoy what is popularly known as the popular Hellshire Beach, you want them to know that there are signs that we want you to observe or no swimming zones.
That's going to be incredibly important, Chairman Jalal, because you have just told us that there were 5 drownings since the start of the year. We are aware of 3 unfortunate deaths, a triple drowning that started off the year. New Year's Day 2026, we had a police officer, a young boy and a woman lose their lives at Sand Hills, Hellshire area, known for its heavy currents. But when were the other 2 drownings in this area?
Well, the fourth one took place a few weeks after, so it would have taken place in late January, and then the fifth one, the fourth one, by the way, was somebody who was fishing and who basically got into difficulty as he went out with his net and so on, fishing beyond the reef. And then there was a 5th incident that happened just about 2 weeks ago. In the vicinity of what we call the old shrimp factory. That was the drowning death of a young university student that is also a resident of Hellshire. Quite unfortunate for many of us in the area to have suffered this loss. He is Josh Hanchard was his name, a student at the university whose parents are also part of the deaf community. Which has even made it even more difficult, as he was, important in that family in terms of interpreting. So that was the 5th one that took place, and it has really caused the entire community to be really saddened by this, and also now looking for solutions that can come from our stakeholders to assist us in solving this. We really need a roundtable discussion with all the relevant stakeholders, the UDC, NEPA, the Port Municipal Council, and whoever else is responsible for beach control. We really need to sit together and come up with solutions. We have recommendations. We have, as persons in the area, there are many recommendations that we have that we would like to put to the table. And if we could engage the UDC and others in this, I'm sure we could be able to reduce the loss of lives or prevent further loss of lives. Due to drownings at our beaches.
Chairman Jalal, you spoke to us about some of the recommendations that you had made, recommendations including signage, for example, lifeguards on the beach. Fencing is something as well that it appears that you have requested. When you made those specific requests, did you make them specific to the UDC, or did you say them and hope that somebody would have taken you up on them?
No, we would have written letters. To the UDC expressing our concerns. Apart from the fact that I don't want to go down that road now, but we've asked for these areas to be protected by restricting or reducing access to prevent even dumping, to prevent possible loss of lives due to any other circumstances, because these areas are lonely. So we think it would be wise to restrict or reduce the access to these areas. Other recommendations, some of these have not been stated as clearly to the UDC as yet, but if we could have other stakeholders involved in finding means to watch over the area, then we as a community has taken the initiative to put up a camera system that helps our local police, the Hellshire police, to monitor our space. But as an association, it's not possible for us to extend. We don't have the resources to extend to do all of this coverage. But if we could have partnerships with us, where these areas are also covered by surveillance cameras, we could tell when persons are approaching these areas. The police would be able to be aware and to send a team to remind persons, to discourage persons from swimming in these areas. I mean, we're not saying we're stopping people from enjoying the nice sceneries, but we are saying we need you to understand that it is unsafe to swim in these zones.
And those safety concerns then are going to be important for that community, especially with the most recent loss of that young man and now 4 deaths in the area. What response did you receive from the UDC?
Oh, well, we have not received a response as yet.
When did you send that information then to them?
Well, last week we sent another email with our concerns, again, reminding them that we have a list of things that we need to discuss together so we can help to better our community, right? The beach is one issue. There are certainly many other issues that we would like to raise with them. You know, we have green area issues and, you know, road issues and all kind of different issues. But right now, the forefront of our minds is protecting our residents, protecting our visitors from possible danger, from possible death, you know, or injury.
So you said you sent them another bit of communication, that email last week. How long have you been communicating with the UDC about these issues that you have raised?
We checked back to see, honestly, and we checked back. Our earliest email was in 2023 when this administration took over the All Hellshire Leadership Council. So we took over in 2022, and in 2023, our first email went out early in the year, and we are still awaiting to have this sit-down talk with the UDC to discuss a number. We had a 10-point agenda, basically, that we wanted to go through. And amongst them, of course, was safety of our beaches.
We are people who have watched the Urban Development Corporation this week immediately respond to a concern at the Harmony Beach Park. Fencing had been put up, and the UDC was very happy to report to Jamaica that because they took such responsibility for Jamaicans being able to have access to the beach within 1 hour, that fencing was removed. That contrasted with you now saying that you've been attempting to get the UDC to speak to you for years. What is your response then, or your reaction to having seen what took place at one beach while not being able to hear from the UDC about yours?
Well, I'm extremely disappointed to know that we've been trying for many years to get the attention, and we are wondering why are we in Hellshire not being recognized. We have over 5,000 persons living in the area. We have professionals and otherwise living in the area. We have the closest beach to the corporate area that many visitors can come and enjoy. The Hellshire area has a great potential for doing fabulous things for Jamaica, for Kingston and for the entire Jamaica. And it is really disheartening to know that we are not getting the recognition, we're not getting the attention that we need just by having simple conversations as the persons who are living there, who are on the ground, who have been doing much in our area since. We have a strong association. We have 20 communities. We have a strong association in all communities. We have the umbrella group here, All Hellshire Leadership Council. And there are many things that we meet together and would like to achieve, but a lot of stumbling blocks, a lot of blocked roads, unless we are able to get the attention of the Urban Development Corporation, who are the owners primarily of most of the properties in Hellshire.
And I think that then means that you need to have them take a look at this issue and address some of the concerns that you have raised with us. Chairman of the All Hellshire Leadership Council, Delphel Jalal, thank you so very much for joining us this evening inside Lead Story. And thanks for sharing your community's position on these issues. All right, we'll take a break and wrap up the whole week for you. Everything that's gone on, everything that you need to know up next inside Lead Story.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orson Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
5 days, and across every one of them, this program has been tracking a single question. When Jamaican institutions are given notice of a danger, of a failing, of a legal obligation, what happens next? Let's go through the week. On Monday, we examined school violence following the circulation of a video showing a student being struck at Jamaica College. The Ministry of Education ordered a probe, but the broader question that emerged was not only about the incident, but it was about whether Jamaica's schools are equipped to protect children from violence and whether reporting and response mechanisms are fit for that moment. The latest news in that case, as it is right now, is that a 16-year-old student of Jamaica College who was captured in that video assaulting a schoolmate has now been formally charged by the police. They've been charged with assault occasioning bodily harm. Jamaica College says the altercation stemmed from an ongoing dispute over stolen items, but that statement itself had been controversial for persons as they were listening. In the middle of having that conversation as well on Monday with Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, as well as with the head of school safety, we heard, unfortunately, of another school dispute, this time leading to death. A child at the Seaforth High School in St. Thomas in a bus park in an altercation with another student was killed. And so the reality of the danger of our schools and in our schools is one that we have to continue to look at. We extend our condolences to that family here from Lead Story, but also an appreciation as well that no parent, absolutely no parent, deserves to send their child to school and not have them come back home safely. On Tuesday, Parliament was in its sectoral debate. Opposition spokesman Philip Polwell raised two issues that went to the heart of parliamentary integrity, and we had him on inside Lead Story to talk about them. First, whether Speaker Juliet Holness can sit on parliamentary committees without compromising her impartiality. And second, the non-appearance of Member of Parliament Dennis Gordon before the Ethics Committee. Mr. Polwell had said on the previous Friday's Lead Story that the Ethics Committee lacked the authority to compel Mr. Gordon without a fresh House referral. Well, Mr. Gordon didn't appear, and that is as a result of a release that had been issued by Mr. Gordon, but also by the People's National Party. We then heard the clerk to the House of Parliament confirm that position, that the House would have to send a new request to the Ethics Committee. That sequence of events, it deserves to be noted because it matters to our democracy and our Parliament. Also on Tuesday, Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang delivered his sectoral presentation as Deputy Prime Minister, as Minister of National Security and Peace, and he talked about the addition of the word peace to his ministry's mandate. The body-worn camera discussion, though, that dominates tonight's program, had its roots in remarks that the minister made in that same debate on Tuesday. And today we had a discussion about it, coming out of releases that had been made by Indicom and civil society groups as well, expressing concern about the minister's position. On Wednesday, the NARA bill, the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act, that was before the House of Representatives on March 19, laid in the House by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. It has been relayed, and a debate about that has now crossed party lines. Opposition Member of Parliament Peter Bunting described the bill as a fiscal free-for-all, and in a rare development, Government Member of Parliament and former Attorney General Marlene Malahoo Fort broke from her own party's position and called for the bill to be reworked. Now, JLP sources told The Observer they were disappointed but not surprised by that. However, this is a bigger and more important question about what happens in Parliament and what happens when we look at pieces of legislation that are to be discussed. Because this National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act has now had members of parliament on the government side, including Matthew Samuda. So we have a long list here of MPs who have spoken about it. Matthew Samuda would have spoken about it. We have others like Senator Apka Fitz-Henley who would have spoken about it. So Minister Matthew Samuda would have spoken about it. Senator Apka Fitz-Henley would have spoken about it. Member of Parliament Delroy Williams. We had Minister Delano Seavright. Others who would have put into the public domain their positions on this. However, we've attempted to get them inside lead story to have this discussion explaining the government side on this. Unfortunately, we've not been able to do so just yet. On Wednesday, though, we discussed beach access and rights and a discussion of the Beach Control Act yesterday with JABEM. It's still the primary instrument governing Jamaica's access to the coastline, the beaches, and its consequences for communities, including Hellshire, that we just discussed. We also looked yesterday at the question of Rastafari and the constitutional recognition, where Jamaica, the birthplace of the faith, lags behind regional counterparts in affording legal protection to its own cultural and spiritual heritage. Then, Jamaicans for Justice appeared on this program and said directly that, the retabled NARA bill still does not adequately address the concerns raised in their joint submission with the Jamaica Environment Trust. What does that mean? And especially hearing now so many voices afterwards defend the bill, indicating, we heard from Minister Floyd Green, Minister of Agriculture today, that the devastation, especially in his constituency and constituencies on the western side of the island, was so significant that extended conversation around this much needed piece of legislation would not benefit Jamaicans. But as we now look at the concerns that are being raised in this bill, is too much speed not helpful at this point? We also had a conversation with Dr. Devon Taylor of JABEM, extending solidarity to the All Hellshire Leadership Council following the drowning of a young man that we just spoke about a moment ago with the very community chairman who joined us tonight. And so all of this week, heavy on our hearts as we're looking at all of this, lets us know that next week we're still going to be watching oil prices. Oil prices continue to dominate all the conversations that we have, especially as the war on Iran, started by the United States and Israel, now goes into 55 days. We're watching what that impact that has on us here in Jamaica. We're watching NARA attempting to give the government this week the opportunity to answer questions around that bill. We're wanting to see what happens with you, everything, all at once. That is what we're looking at, and we'll continue to look at, keeping you up to date and informed here inside Lead Story. That was our rundown of the week, telling you everything that we were looking at, all who we had inside the show, each line connected for you inside this discussion. But at the end of it all, we want to let you know that you can always come to Lead Story for the important information, because this week has not been about a single failure. It's been about a system under strain. We heard today from a community that says it warned and was not heard. We heard from civil society that says accountability tools are being limited. And we've seen a public health alert that reminds us how quickly risk can enter the everyday. So don't eat the pan-Caribbean sugar. Make sure that you keep yourself safe. We also heard from a justice system that requires discipline, especially in a high-profile case and public emotion runs high. The question then is not whether the state has power. It always does. The question is whether that power is exercised early or only after consequences. Because responding after the fact is not a proactive system. It's a very reactive one. And the difference between those two things is often measured in lives. That is the story. I'm Jody Ann Quarry, and on behalf of the entire CVM production team, thank you for watching Lead Story. Have a fantastic evening, a great weekend, and I hope you stay safe. Up next, CVM News.
a go on?
What a go on?
That a go on, pa.
What a go on? What a go on?
What a one! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a go on, pa. What a go on?
Brought to you by
Some things are perfect from the start. Smirnoff.
It's the creativity on the left. Brilliant. Worth every penny. Haaland into O'Reilly.
Step over there, he walks past him, and then it's just a bit of magic.